Hi everybody, how you doing? Here we are. Easy like Sunday morning. Yeah. So I thought I'd just take a little opportunity. I normally write out to the Drive Through RPG mailing list on a Sunday just to say hi and to check in with people. But I thought, you know what? Let's send a video. Maybe we'll send an email as well. So it's been a weird old time. We've had all this hoo-ha with Mutants and Masterminds, which is kind of on the mend, and actually some good things have come out of it. Um, the good thing is that there's a kind of like a new way forward for Nova City Heroes. Fate's a great little system, but to make it kind of bespoke to Nova City Heroes, we need to do more with it. We need to really take the essence of Fate and adapt it for Nova City, and create and it's an opportunity to build new powers, new classes, new origins, new everything. Build Nova City from the ground up because we're not using mutants and masterminds anymore. And then I have one of these dangerous thoughts for any kind of games developer. How can we even build on that? How can we make it more? And I thought of all the things I kind of wish superhero systems had. Maybe there's a superhero system out there that does have the things I'm about to describe, and you can write in and let me know. But one thing I really wish a superhero system had was a way of kind of going from the origin story to the action. Most systems assume that your hero starts fully fledged with their powers, but most superhero stories don't begin like that. Part of the enjoyment of a story of Spider-Man or Batman is how they become what they become, how they transition from the mundane world through to the world of power, how they learn to master their powers and how they go on that internal journey, how they learn to, how Batman learns to augment that dark side of himself with the various technologies he needs to defeat the Joker, how Spider-Man learns to manage that impulsivity that causes him all sorts of trouble, and to learn how to manage the power that he has with responsibility, all that kind of stuff. But that's very difficult when you've got 6 players at a table. So I thought, well, why don't we bolt on a solo play part to the new Nova City Heroes Player's Guide? I think that'll work. There's all sorts. You have to manage it. It'll be complicated and all sorts of payoffs and problems and trade-offs and all that kind of stuff. But I think the idea is basically sound. So we're going to have a crack at that. Also, other super systems do this, but I think we could do more of it. Is build the relationship between community and hero, between where the hero comes from, where they protect, where their roots are, where their soul is almost, and the people in that community, whether they are, from a superhero high school or like a working class neighborhood like Hell's Kitchen and Daredevil, or whatever it is, whether they are from a particular institution like a police department or a hospital, and having that. The problem is, you have your hero, they go away, they do an adventure, and then they come back and their communities are kind of an afterthought. But what if it's not? What if it kind of has a life of its own? What if it has NPCs in it that do things independently of the hero? What if when the hero comes back, the place has changed, not always for the good? What if the place, the hero has been dabbling in different dimensions and they come back and they've transformed their community unrecognizably? All this kind of stuff. There's all sorts of things we could do there. And the community becomes almost like a sort of little Western Marches kind of hub, from where the rest of the world is explored or, adventured into from. So that's what I'm thinking. So it's quite a radical departure from Mutants and Masterminds. Um, and the the kind of the ground zero of everything is always the vanishing. And sort of everything else kind of grows from there. So we started to kind of build out from Fate already, and I started a new little mini series on Drive Through RPG called Aftermath. And I thought, what a great place to start than by looking at teen superheroes, because we've never really done that in Nova City. So we started off the day after the Vanishing. We're going to do a run of like 5 episodes of what happens when the Void Emperor wants to know why the Vanishing hasn't completely worked. And he sends some of his elite goons to Nova City to find out. And they wind up crossing paths with some superpowered school kids. And we'll kind of run it from there. But the point being is that people have, I think, essentially, I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, but people like Nova City because it's a setting. The system is just the means by which we deliver the setting, deliver the engagement and enjoyment of the setting. But you can lose one system and gain another, and the setting goes on. And that's what I want. And I want to hear more and more kind of voices from the community, the Nova City community that is starting to kind of to grow and to hear your stories and adventures. One thing we're definitely going to do, and it's already written it into our little licensee type affair, is to give you Nova City. So if somebody out there was playing a Nova City Heroes adventure and with their characters wanted to write something new, and wanted their own Nova City universe to run parallel to the official one, that's okay. And if you even wanted to stick your Nova City Heroes products on Drive Through RPG, you'd be able to do that. There's a whole section on how you can do that. Talk to me and we can figure it out. So hopefully what we'll eventually see is a Nova City multiverse where different stories are happening, and our World Anvil eventually will hopefully be able to capture that. On that very subject, we've got a new World Anvil timeline emerging, so check it out. And there should be, if you go to our Reddit page, I'll put a link when it's unfinished. You should be able to find the Nova City Heroes links and World Anvil and everything else you need. That's that for Nova City Heroes. So looking at DM Essentials, right, well, DM Essentials is starting to evolve, as all things do, into an idea I had ages ago called Mid-Realm. I've talked about North Realm. North Realm and Mid-Realm exist in the same universe. Mid-Realm is a kind of a continent of nations that were once part of an empire. The empire has faded away. And the nations in the continent of Mid-Realm, which exists between North Realm and South Realm, obviously, are struggling. There are unseen forces that are undermining each and every country. And ordinary people from across the land, not wizards and warriors and things like that, ordinary folks are starting to realize that something is wrong. Now, here's the interesting bit. So this was all written for D&D, but we're not going there. Okay, I mean you can still all the DM essential stuff you can still use for D&D, but the problem with D&D, I mean, one of the various problems with D&D is power scaling. I don't think in lots of games there's a need for players to essentially become gods. You know, if you think about almost any story you like, from Lord of the Rings to Game of Thrones, it's not what happens. It's not how it starts to corrode the basic functionings of story, and roleplay games are just stories that we collaborate on together. So eventually mid-realm, which is going to spring from DM Essentials, all the things we've done in DM Essentials, hundreds of them, is going to be based on the Year Zero system, which is used by Free League. A particular example of that is the One Ring, which again presupposes that the high elves and dwarves and hobbits are relatively ordinary examples of their peoples. They're not Aragorn or Gandalf or Legolas or anything like that. They're relatively ordinary. And a lot of this is because I've designed this, or I'm thinking of this, because you can't do anything at all at the moment with the Star Wars RPG. And Andor is the best show that I've ever seen. And I just like the idea of the formation of some kind of resistance, that a force, a hidden force, threatens to bring back the old Imperium, but with some new terrifying characteristics. And it's not down to the boldest heroes in the land to step in and save the day, blah, 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 because that's boring. It's more interesting when people with no power, the disempowered, the ordinary people, rely on nothing more than courage and belief that things don't have to be like this, and resist in their own way. And that's what Mid-Realm is going to be. So it's going to be based on the Year Zero system, and it's going to be a medieval fantasy version of Andor, with as much kind of backstabbing, incompetence, and tragedy, which is what all the great revolutions are based on. So that's the plan. Still incubating ideas around Hunger, Ohio. That's hopefully something we're going to go ahead with later this year. And we're finishing off Arclands with one final product, which is the Book of the Phantasm, which has been meant to be happening for years and years, and now it is finally happening. I'll talk about that another time. But with Arclands, we're going to kind of put the lid on that, and then again, moving away from D&D, the next Year Zero product we're going to do is going to be A Fire in the Heart of Knowing, which is going to be the Arclands world reimagined from the book The Blood of Tharta. And the Book of Tharta, the Blood of Tharta, is the first book of A Fire in the Heart of Knowing. And so that's going to be where we're going to go with that universe moving forward. Anyway, so we'll have 2 Year Zero universes and the Fate universe in the guise of Nova City Heroes. And that's kind of what the way forward looks like, which I think sounds pretty cool. It does, because I'm thinking of it. And hopefully it will map into something really, really great. Yeah, I think that's kind of everything. The second book, this is exciting news. The second book of A Fire in the Heart of Knowing, In the Darkness of Dreaming, I'm just beyond the halfway point with it now. It was perhaps slightly further than that because the shells of chapters are there, and the writing is now flowing. Writing is sort of like going up a hill and coming down the other side. When you get to the top, that's when your legs are really sore, and everything has been a slog to get to the top, and then suddenly all the stuff you've written creates the momentum that fires you downhill, and the writing gets faster and faster. So hopefully it won't take for the rest of the year. I'm looking hopefully to get something out October, November time, ideally. So, but we shall see. We shall see. Um, yeah, I think that is definitively it. There may be some other stuff, but me and my memory. Anyway, I hope you're well. Take good care, and thanks for everything. It's such an honor to have this community. It really is. Take care. Bye bye.